We've got additional capabilities and pricing on the Sony a6700, an APS-C censored camera that's due out this summer, but has a rather big surprise. Stick around after this short break for all the details. But first, please do me a favor. Follow me on Twitter, but most importantly, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything and really does help this channel grow. And if you're already a subscriber, thanks so much for your support. We've got an update on the Sony a6700, thanks to Sony Alpha Rumors. And while we don't have an exact date, the a6700 is expected to be announced in early July and start shipping in August. This high-end Alpha is supposed to have the exact same sensor as the FX30, a 26 megapixel APS-C sensor. Now, there's no mention on what type of image processor it's going to get, but it is supposed to get, no surprises, that new AI chip that debuted with the Sony a7R5. And not only will that AI processor help the autofocus system improve, it will also bring other improvements to image processing. The a6700 will have IBIS with 7 stops. Now, it's a 5-axis IBIS system, but let's talk about the video specs because, well, we don't have any more stills capabilities. We don't have frame rates. We don't have ISO or any of that stuff. But in terms of video, well, it can do 6K video at 24, 25, and 30 frames per second. And 4K 120, yes, it can do that as well. However, it's coming in a future firmware update. Now, this is becoming a trend we're seeing with many cameras. It started with a Canon EOS R5, where we're starting to see major capabilities of a camera that aren't coming on release, but are coming at some future firmware update. And hopefully, because Sony's not the best at issuing firmware updates, we won't have to wait very long to get 4K 120. Oh, I almost forgot, a 4K 120, there is a caveat there, and it's going to have a slight crop, a 20% crop, a 1.19 times crop. I would rather see full sensor readout, but 4K 120 does take an awful lot of processing, so you're also going to need some good cards in this camera or some high capacity cards. It does support dual card slots, and that's both SD UHS 2 as well as CF Express Type A cards. So Sony hasn't made the move to CF Express Type B yet. I don't think it's going to happen with a camera at this level, even though it's a high-end camera. Price, oh, I almost gave away the price. We'll save the price for a little bit. I'd expect that when Sony does move to Type B, it's going to be with like an Alpha 1 camera, an A9 Mark III. But hopefully they do it, because when it comes to high-speed continuous stills, and that's one place where you really need it. When it comes to shooting video, even 8K video, you don't need more than about 325 megabytes per second, and that's up to 30 frames per second. 8K 60, and this is shooting RAW, by the way, you need somewhere around 650 megabytes per second. And 650 megabytes per second is really the maximum sustained write speed that you can expect to see on a CF Express Type A card. But in terms of shooting high-speed continuous stills, if you want to shoot 20 frames per second or 30 frames per second lossless RAW, well, you need to be able to handle at least over 1 gigabyte per second, something like 1.5 gigabytes per second. And that's why I don't think this camera is going to be capable of shooting much faster than 10 frames per second. It is going to have a 3.69 million dot EVF, and it's going to have a new design. Now, the EVF is going to be in the same place, but let me read it correctly here. The EVF will still be on the left, but it will have a scroll wheel on the front under the shutter button. The grip is redesigned and more ergonomic, and the body will be about 3 millimeters deeper and 4 millimeters taller. So deeper and taller, that's good because it's going to allow better heat dissipation. But this is a stills hybrid camera. If you want better heat dissipation, if you don't want to have to worry about any sort of overheating in the camera, well, then you should really consider getting the FX30, because this camera is supposed to be largely based off of the FX30. So you'd expect it to come in at a price of $1798, correct? No. Apparently, because it's got an EVF and a few other things, it's going to be priced a little bit more, $1999. And this kind of has me wondering a little bit here. See, if you really like the idea of the a6700 and you don't want to have to pay extra, you want to get it for a little bit cheaper, then why not get the FX30? Because this camera, the a6700, is based off of the FX30, and that's the big surprise. Now, what's really remarkable here is how Sony's able to just reuse a lot of their components. So let's go back in time. It's August of 2020, and Sony releases the full-frame camera, the Sony a7S III. And this is a video-centric camera, a follow-up, a 5-year wait for the successor to the a7S II. And then what does Sony do after that? Well, they come out with the FX3. The FX3 is a full-frame version, a video-centric version of the already video-centric a7S III. Then a little bit later, they come out with the FX30, which is an APS-C version of the FX3. So basically all the same capabilities. And then just recently, earlier this year, we got the vlogging camera, the ZV-E1, got all the same capabilities once again as the FX30, as the FX3, as the A7S3. So here we have again, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be the 5th camera with essentially the exact same capabilities as a Sony A7S3. The only real difference, the sensor. So it's going to have an APS-C sensor, 26 megapixel APS sensor, I believe that's what I said. Yep, 26 megapixel APS-C sensor. Basically a stills hybrid version of the FX30. So one thing you're going to have to ask yourself here is, what do you prefer? Do you want a more compact camera? And this is going to be a little bit bigger than other previous alphas, such as the a6600 or a6500, a6400, but it's a stills hybrid camera. It's got an EVF. So if you really want an EVF, then consider waiting for the a6700. But if you've been waiting for the a6700 and you like all the capabilities, the leaked specifications of this camera, and you don't want to have to pay the higher price, well then consider getting the FX30. And that's the real big surprise here. It's amazing how Sony's able to reuse the same components and put out many different cameras. I was on a live stream today with AP Studios, and one thing that was discussed is how Sony is reusing the same components over and over again, putting out so many different camera bodies. There's so many options in terms of vlogging. There's so many options in terms of stills hybrid, but they're pretty much providing you with all the same capabilities. The question is, do you want to pay around $3,300 for the A7S3 or $1,798 for an APS-C version of that camera in more of a video-centric body in the FX30? There's so many options, and now we've got the A6700. So I'm really curious. That begs the question is, when are we getting a successor to the Sony A7S3 and the A7S4? It's been 3 years since we got the A7S3, well, almost 3 years. But we had to wait 5 years to get that camera. So we're definitely within the range of when you could expect to see a refresh, but Sony doesn't leak a whole lot of information, and this camera, we're getting leaks on it, but no more than 2 to 3 months before the actual announcement. So if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news and rumors regarding the Sony A7S4, the A6700, or anything Sony related, or pretty much anything related to all the major brands, news and rumors, then go ahead and subscribe, but make sure you choose all notifications. And for all the minor news and rumors, follow me on my Twitter channel. Basically, all the news and rumors, all the pricing information, all that stuff that's not quite big enough to have its own separate video, well, I tweet that out several times a day. And right now, I've been tweeting out quite a bit, all the different sales. The Canon EOS R5 is still on sale, some $850 off. You'll see $500 off, but it comes with a free battery grip worth $350. So that essentially gives you $850 off for the body alone. The Nikon Z7 Mark II, the Nikon Z6 Mark II, both on sale, $400 and $300 off respectively. We're seeing lots of lenses on sale. The Panasonic S1H Mark II is on sale. Sorry, the Panasonic S1H is on sale, some $500 off. The Canon EOS R3, $500 off at B&H and Adorama. I've got links down below if you want to use my affiliate links to help support this channel. But yeah, I'm seeing lots of sales. So because putting out 5 or 6 videos a day would drive me insane, literally, let alone you, I tweet those out. So that's the best way to find that information. But that's it for now. We're getting ready for another weekend. And in the United States, I know you're getting ready to celebrate Memorial Day. So have yourself a great weekend. Everybody take care, and we'll see you again soon.